On the line joining me now is Idris Francis. Hi Idris, and welcome to Drive Time.
Thank you.
Idris, your uncle, I understand, was actually at the Nuremberg trials. He was a major. Can you just tell us a little bit about him?
He went across on D-Day in a landing craft as an RSM. By the end of the war, he was a major in Hamburg with BFN. He was then sent in a jeep to Nuremberg to deliver important documents for the war crimes trial. And there, two senior German officers he somehow managed to speak to said to him, "Yes, you have beaten us again for the second time, but the third time we are going to win. And the next time it's all going to happen so slowly you won't even realize it's happening until it's all over." Now, my aunt, he died unfortunately in 1960, but his widow lives with me now, and she's in the next room. And she categorically remembers my uncle telling her that in about 1946. There's no question about it. That is what they did say. And my comment on that is that I've never doubted for one moment that senior people in Germany knew well before 1945 that they couldn't possibly win the war, and at that point started to plan how they would win the peace. And part of it certainly involved shoveling money around the world ready to for the next campaign. And incidentally, through my contacts with an MEP, an UKIP MEP, I can also say categorically that the EU now has more secret and unaccounted for bank accounts around the world than any other organization in history. And that's a fact.
Well, one of the other things, of course, is that the EU has not actually had its accounts properly signed off at all for many years. Well, but anyway, I mean, it's a bit of a jump to say that the EU is in any way connected with this Fourth Reich post-war financial network set up by, what we believe anyway, by Martin Bormann, who was Hitler's private secretary. He, it looks like, escaped quite successfully over to South America, as Paul Manning has written about in his book. He's a former CBS news correspondent. I mean, are you really trying to tie the EU? Because I know you're a big anti-EU campaigner to this, and if so, how do you do that, Idris?
Who was it? The German Nazi propagandist who said the bigger the lie, the easier it is to believe. Well, about 5 years ago, I proved conclusively that the Department for Transport had got its figures wrong by a factor of 50. And friends of mine who knew I was trying to expose this said, for God's sake, don't claim they're wrong by a factor of 50. It'll make you sound mad. They couldn't possibly be wrong by a factor of 50. So I got an accountant to do it, and he warned me the same, that I would still have to pay his fee when he discovered that that they couldn't possibly be wrong. And after a week, he rang me up and said, "You were wrong. You know, they're wrong by an even bigger margin than you said." So I was warned some time ago when I'd said from a platform somewhere that I believed that there was a close link between the EU as we now know it and the Nazi plans in 1943-44, that I really shouldn't say things like that in public because it would make people think that I was mad. Increasingly, more and more people are now seeing that that is indeed the case, that the European Union is in fact the German Fourth Reich, founded by essentially the same people or the descendants for the same purpose, the German domination at least of Europe, if not more. Now, I'm one of those swivel-eyed loons, I suppose, who actually prefers to be governed by people I elect with others and people I can fire if I'm not happy with what they do alongside others. And what I'm not prepared to do under any circumstances is to allow this country to be governed by the descendants of the people who try to invade us by force and who have do not have the best interests of this country at heart. They have the interests of Germany at heart, and that is, and it's impossible to deny, that every single policy in the European Union is designed from square one for the benefit of Germany, and and is also true, Britain being peculiarly different from most other continental countries because of our island history, they're also peculiarly disadvantageous to this country. Everything from growing lettuce and nutrients that are allowed in the soil, and all the other petty rules that have destroyed this country.
But Idris, surely the City of London is pretty crooked and corrupt, and we've got a hell of a lot of that corruption here in Britain. I mean, it's no worse, surely, than Brussels.
Sort of thing for 15 years, saying, well, there's no point in arguing about things being dreadful in the European Union because they're bad here. Well, my answer to that is very simple. The fact that things are bad here is no argument for allowing them to become worse. And the other argument is that if we are a self-contained country that governs itself, we do at least have a chance of fighting that corruption and putting it right, which is another thing that I'm busily doing about speed cameras, incidentally. But what we will never, ever do is to prevent the corruption if the EU is in charge, because the EU is internally and systematically and deliberately corrupt. Do you know the name Martha Andreasen, the chief accountant of the EU, who was fired by Neil Kinnock for blowing the whistle on fraud? I asked her as we walked to a Christmas dinner about 3 years ago whether any organization could possibly be so corrupt and so incompetent for so long as the EU has been, with never getting its accounts sorted out, other than by design. And she smiled and said, of course it's by design. It was designed from the very beginning to be corrupt, because by being corrupt and having billions of slush funds washing around all over the place, they could first of all pay ample numbers of European civil servants to do as they were told, because they were getting far better money than they would anywhere else. You can always get people to do what you want if you're prepared to pay them enough money, and if you're taking the money from taxpayers, then there's no limit. The EU is corrupt, it always has been, and what's worse is that it is gradually, and not so gradually, corrupting this country too, because many of the things that I have been swearing under my breath about, that I've been reading about the EU for the last 20 years, are increasingly happening here.